It is so great to be with you here today. Not that I'm counting, 5,432 miles to be here with you. I got a phone call about 4 weeks ago from Calvin Klein saying, we'd like for you to come and speak. We saw your TED Talk that you gave in Chelmsford, England 3 years ago on human connection. We thought it'd be great. And I go, oh, how wonderful, that's great. Tell me about the audience, you. Tell me, who I'm going to be speaking to so I can really relate to them. And they go, okay, well, they're from all over Europe. They have different cultural backgrounds, different family upbringings, different politics, everything. And they're in the fashion business, and the average age is 33 years old. And I said, that's so perfect. A 65-year-old from the mountains of California who do executive coaching for high-tech executives. This is a perfect fit. And then I got scared for like 5 minutes. I was like, really? Can I really connect with these people and really make a difference? And then I remember I'm in the process now. I finished the second draft of a book that I'm planning on coming out in October, and I'm working with Catherine, my great book editor, and I reminded myself that the book is about human connection, which is not based upon geopolitics or religion or beliefs or age or anything like that. So it helped me go, this is so perfect that I get to be with you guys here today and talk about human connection, because we might not be further apart than age and culture and distance and time. So I'm going to begin by making a statement to you, and it's a statement that I authentically and absolutely feel, and it's going to arrest you a bit. And so I don't want to lose you as an audience. I want you to stay with me until I explain myself, and I will fully, so you'll get it. Here's the statement that I want to make. I really do authentically feel in my heart, I deeply love each one of you. And you say, how can you say that? You don't know me. And I go, oh yeah, I do. And I'll explain why I know you. It's because you and I have shared the exact same emotions. And I'll share what that means in a moment. What I want to tell you is I want to tell you 3 short stories, because short stories usually transmit something rather than academic, philosophical, professorial kind of talk. The first story occurred in 1974, probably before your parents were married. I was talked into going to a motivational seminar in the San Francisco Bay Area by a good friend of mine. I had a passion that welled up. It was so great. And when I got done listening to him speak, I got in line to stand there and to shake his hand and to thank him for his speech. And so I stood in the line, and I finally got to the front, and I said, Mr. Robert, I just want to tell you how powerful that speech you gave was, and how it really feels like it's changed how I look at the world and who I am inside. It's been fantastic. And it must be so cool to be in a craft and a trade and a business to where you're transforming so many people's lives. And he leaned forward and he said, Dan, the truth of the matter is that we've tracked people who attend these seminars, and we watch to see what happens to them afterward, and we notice that only 3% of the audience actually changes as a result of this. Sure, they feel inspired for a couple of days, but it goes away. And I was just depressed. I go, how can you be so inspiring and so passionate about something knowing that 97% of the audience is not going to be changed as a result of that? And he says, well, what I do is I can't motivate, connect, or relate to a crowd. It's impersonal. What I do is I'm going to look around and I'm going to pick an individual visually on the right, in the back, on the left, and I'm going to pretend that those are the 3%. And I'm going to be speaking directly to them. And from 40, 50 feet away, the rest of the audience can't tell that I'm not speaking directly to them. But the principle that I got out of it was that human connection is critical for him to be authentic and for him to be real. And I got it that human connection is what transforms lives, inspires, and leads people to change their lives to be what they want to be as they go forward. The second story is really powerful. That story comes from 22 years ago. Even before that, there's a man named Felice Leonardo Buscaglia who came from Italy and went to California, and he's a professor at USC, University of Southern California, a large, private, expensive school. And he wound up writing books, 14 best-selling books, 5 of them on the New York Times bestseller list at one time. And that catapulted him onto the TV. So in the 70s and the 80s, he was all over PBS, the public broadcasting system, and CBS, NBC, ABC, being interviewed and speaking. You can find him on the internet still today. But every word that I read from him, it was like he was writing to me. And every time I listened to him speak, it was as though he was speaking directly to me. He was nicknamed at USC, he was nicknamed Dr. Love. because he just loved people. And as I mentioned earlier, the TED Talk I gave in Chelmsford, England 3 years ago goes much more into the story about him and his background and what happened. But what was great about it is he was my hero. I mean, for a decade. I just really admired his work and thought it was fantastic. And 22 years ago, I'm walking around an outdoor festival in Lake Tahoe, California, and I looked up and I noticed that's Dr. Biscaglia standing there. After 10 years of following him, I get to meet him. And I walked over and I said, Dr. Biscaglia. And he turned back to look at me. And I had my hand out to shake his hand and to, just to meet him. And this is the most phenomenal thing that occurred. He took my hand, he pulled me in, and he grabbed me and hugged me, full torso hug. Like dropped his head down into the crook of my neck and held me for like 3 seconds. Like if you were returning from war after 4 years, how your dad would hug you if you were at the train station. That kind of hug. And then he pulls back away from me, and his hand slid down to my elbows, and he gently held my elbows, looking me intently in the eye, and he said, Dan, it is so great to finally meet you. And he meant it. I'm a nobody. He doesn't know me from Adam. But he meant it. Instantly, my heart was changed and moved. I mattered. I was cared for. I meant something to him in that moment. It changed. I now, in my career, I now call it the hug. It changed my life. And a little bit longer on, we chatted a bit. And I said, some of my clients that I'm talking to that hire me for coaching will ask me, to come in and help them. And I'll say, what is the issue you have today? And they'll tell me about 2 vice presidents that are in conflict with each other. And I will offer some advice. Excuse me. And they will say, well, I understand what you're saying, Dan, but I would argue the money they're being paid, they ought to learn how to get along and be that way. And Dr. Biscaglia looked at me and goes, oh, yeah. Dan, you first have to show them the need. And I want to be like somewhat enlightened, right? So I go, oh yeah. It was over my head. Dan, you first have to show them the need. And on the 3.5-hour drive home back to the Bay Area, I'm repeating over and over in my mind, trying to figure out what that means. And I finally had to break it down one word at a time. Dan, you first, before anything else. Have to. Not an option. You have to. Show. Not talk, not preach, not counsel, not advise, but show. Something I'm going to show has to be present inside me first in order for it to be revealed. Show them the need. What's the need? What is their need? They're all different. What do they all need? You're from different countries here. What do you all commonly need? And I just drew a blank. I couldn't figure it out. And then I reflected back for a moment, and I remembered the hug, and it warmed my heart. And I go, man, I really needed that. And I picked up on the fact that I said I needed that, and that was the need. I needed to matter, and I did. There were like 30 or 40 people gathered around us now because other people had recognized Dr. Biscaglia and wanted to meet him, and they're kind of crowding in. And all the entire time, Dr. Biscaglia was right here, focused on me. No one else existed in the world. I meant something. And I realized from that moment forward that I needed to love my clients even before I met them, so I could show them the need. And so from 3 clients to 31 clients in 1 year, it just exploded because of human connection, because I really had to care. And I had to figure out what it was I could think of and how I could be to where I could fall in love with you before I meet you. What is that going to be? Third story. I'm on a plane 3 months ago, coming back from Orlando, Florida, coming from a conference, and I went back home. And we had a change of planes in Denver, Colorado. And so changed the planes, and I get on the next plane to come home, and I'm tired. And I look at my ticket as I'm walking down the aisle, and I notice I've been put in a middle seat, 3 seats in a row, and I'm in the middle. And it's like, oh, no, I'm human. Are you kidding me? We've known for 2 months I'm on this flight, and we couldn't pick a window or an aisle. I'm in a center seat. Now I get to play armchair wars. Who's going to get the armchair? Or am I going to sit like this, for, hour and a half going home? And I caught myself and I go, wait a minute, Dan, that's selfish, self-centered, self-seeking. You're thinking about yourself. Get off yourself. Make a difference in the next person's life, whoever that's going to be. So I sat down in the center row, and all of a sudden the seat on the aisle is open. I'm envious. I'm looking at it. I'm jealous. I'm actually coveting that seat. And so the door's about to close, and I think maybe he's not going to show. She's not going to show. I get to move over. It'd be great. And lo and behold, right before it closes, here comes a man walking through the door and walks through named Ray. I don't know whether he's up here or not. No big deal. He walks through the door, and he's like 6'3", big guy. Good-looking black man, but big. And he comes in and he puts his luggage in the overhead bin above me, and then I reach over and I take the 2 seat belts that are folded across the seat and I unfolded them for him. So when he sat down, he wouldn't have to dig them out from underneath his chair. And so he's, oh, thank you. And so he sat down and put his seatbelt on. Now, I get to use discernment now, and I get to determine whether or not he's the kind of guy that wants to order a gin and tonic and get into his book, or he's the kind of guy that might want to have a conversation. I know that a conversation is going to, reward my heart, and it's going to make the flight go faster. So I slowly begin to prod and say, so are you flying out or are you flying home? And he goes, well, I'm actually neither. I'm flying to meet my wife and my mother, and we're going to go visit my sister in Napa. I said, oh, great. Where's home? He goes, Houston, Texas. And I go, oh, wow. How do you like Houston? He goes, oh, it's pretty good. I said, have you lived there long? He goes, no, about 7 years. And I go, oh, where did you move from before that? And he said, Washington, D.C. And I go, wow, what did you do in Washington? He said, I was an attorney for a large bank. And I go, oh, how cool is that? What was the highlight of your experience being an attorney in Washington, D.C.? And he said, I once had the opportunity to try a case in the Federal Court of Appeals, which is like the second largest court in the land. And I go, wow, how exciting. He goes, yeah, it was. I said, were you a lawyer your whole career, life? And he goes, no, I was an Oakland police officer. Now, I don't know if you know Oakland, California, but I was born next door in Richmond years ago, and it has, over the last 3 or 4 decades, been a very, very tough town. A lot of crime. And I said, wow, what a cultural shock to go from an Oakland police officer to an attorney in Washington, D.C. He goes, yeah. And we began to chat just a little bit more, whatever, and he shared something with me about the word discrimination came up. And I said, tell me more about that, because that's the only thing I probably cannot relate to and I do want to understand. So we chatted a little bit more. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna make a really crazy statement to you. And I want you to hear me out. And he goes, okay. I said, Ray, I deeply love you. I care a great deal about you. And he's like, and I go, now let me explain. We have the most common thing together in common. We're exactly alike. Let me explain. Do you pee slightly yellow? He goes, yeah. I go, do you bleed red? He goes, yeah. 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 butt cheeks? He goes, yeah. I said, okay, great. I said, you know what else I know about you, the most important thing? Have you ever been betrayed by somebody close to you? He goes, yeah. And I go, me too. I know exactly what that feels like. Have you ever had a victory in your life? You came in first, or you won something, or you were picked for a team, or you won a trial. Have you ever had a victory in your life to where you just got in the car and pounded the steering wheel and went, yes? Have you ever had that experience? He goes, yeah. I go, yeah, me too. I know exactly what that feeling feels like also. Huh. So have you ever fallen in love? Head over heels, infatuation, falling in love, being willing to give your life and soul and merge, just be one person with that person, give them everything in the world, cross land and sea for them? He goes, yeah. I said, me too. I know exactly what that emotion feels like. In fact, of the 10,000 emotions that you've felt in your lifetime, I've felt each one of them myself. I know exactly what they feel like. Now, we've felt them at different times and for different reasons, but we've all felt the same exact emotions. So I know you. And because I know you, I have compassion for you. And out of that compassion, I really can say, I understand you and you understand me, and I love you. And I mean it. And then I told him the Leo Buscaglia story about the hug. And so we chatted a little bit, and it was a good conversation. And so 1.5 hour flight, we land, we pull up to the gate, and they turn off the seatbelt sign, and he steps up out of his seat. And he moves into the aisle, and then he moves back into the crowd. I go, oh, let's let me out first, thank you. So he got up, I got up and I stepped out, and he says, no, I want a hug. And here's a 6'3" black guy, grabs me, full embrace, head down into my neck, and he holds me for like 3 seconds. He's got a tear in his eye. And as we separate, he goes, I want to meet you inside the terminal. Let's exchange our contact information. It doesn't take but a little while for Cabot Robert to inspire me and connect with me. It didn't take but more than 10 minutes for Dr. Leo Buscaglia to transform how I looked at the world and to connect with me in a deep and a powerful way. It's been 22 years and it's still forefront of my mind. That's the kind of change that you can create in your lifetime in a very short moment when we come from love. And it didn't take but an hour-and-a-half flight for me to find and create a deep new friendship with Ray. See, in order to connect as a human being, we have to do so with our heart. That means we get to be vulnerable. I get to put myself out there and take a risk and say, hi, nice to meet you, knowing I might be shunned. That's okay. But that through that vulnerability, there's something that when I share something vulnerable about myself, there's something that you need to recognize, and that is vulnerability is highly contagious. Have you ever had somebody tell you something vulnerable about themselves that you know? And out of that you say, I understand what that feels like. There was a time in my life, and then you share something vulnerable back with them that you normally wouldn't have. Vulnerability is contagious. And it takes courage. The original, as I understand it, the original Latin root word for courage is cor. And cor originally was designed, the definition, pure definition is to share your heart wholly, to share your heart fully. We're made as human beings, genetically wired, DNA, genetically wired to be in relationship with each other. From the very beginning of time, prehistoric man, we've gone back and done archaeological digs and found that they are in villages of like 150. That it was more safe to be in a village of 150, so when the saber-toothed tiger came into the camp, somebody would wake up and someone would yell and we could all come out with our spear and we could defend the village. We're not meant to be alone at all. We're meant to be in connection with each other. And here's the bad news. As human beings, we're really bad at it. Just turn on the news. Watch the news for 5 or 10 minutes and you realize how bad we are at connecting and relating to one another. See, we like to create separation to where I am this ideology, I am this label, and you are that label. So therefore, I'm right, you're wrong, I have nothing to talk to you about. And it leads to a shallow and an empty and a frustrating life. Human connection will give you everything you want in your life through relationships. Relationships is your life. Your mom, your dad, your significant other, relationships. Brother, sister, aunts and uncles, extended family, relationships. Boss, relationship. Peers, relationship. Direct reports, relationship. You spend more than half of your waking life at work. We're in relationship. Customers, prospects, we're in relationship with each other all the time. Do we want to be good at it? Because when we're good at relationships, everything works out. When I focus on what I can be there for my spouse, what I can do for her, and I get off of me, things work so great. But you see, the problem with we as human beings, we say, look, here's the deal. If I don't look out for me, no one else will. That's the ego talking. The ego wants to keep you safe from harm at all costs. Even a future, even a career that's brilliant, even a fantastic love life, your ego will want to keep you safe. Its primary driver is to keep you away from pain. So when I want to stretch and go outside the box and create something new that I feel is really valuable, the ego says, no, don't do that. Don't go there. It could hurt. Relationships is your life. Do you want a raise? Do you want a promotion? Will that come from your boss? Will it come from someone you meet who says, I think that's the person who should be the team leader? Everybody loves that person. Everyone will want to work with that person. They're perfectly naturally suited to become promoted to a new level. If you have direct reports, people who work with you, if you love them first, deeply love them first, they will walk across 5 miles of hot coals to make sure you win. Have you ever had a boss that, like the one stands out and you go, oh, they were the best boss ever in my life? Anybody have someone they've worked with like that, where you go, they were the best? Did they focus on themselves, or did they focus on you? They weren't selfish. They weren't self-seeking, self-serving. They were focusing on others. In the business of fashion, Calvin Klein, my wife, Kathleen, she and I went to Los Angeles. I had to work, and so she had a couple of hours to do something with. And so she went to the mall, and she's there to kill time. And she walks into a store, and the salesperson inside the store looked up and said, "Hi, welcome. How can I help you?" And walks over. "How can I help you?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm fine." That person looked at her and said, "Hey, let me show you something," and walked back and started showing her things and having her try things on and bringing more things to the room to her. She walks out with bags of clothing she did not intend to buy because somebody cared about her. We come home. She goes to our local big regional shopping center mall and walks in with the purpose and the idea in mind that she does, in fact, want to buy something specific. And she walks in. And the person in the store looks up and goes just like this. "Hey, need any help? Let me know." And she didn't, and she walked out having bought nothing. Human relationships is your life. And my feeling of it is that Calvin Klein, the brand, is shown and represented by you. What your window looks like. When I'm walking by, is it arresting to where I go, "Oh, that's cool"? Everything we do has to do with relationships. You might say, "I like fishing, I like bike riding, I like golfing, I like whatever." Do you want to do it alone? Or do you want to do it with people? It's going to require you, if you want to change your life and be in that 3%, your way to create a different and fantastic life, it's going to require that you embrace vulnerability and taking a risk to be completely authentic and honest, full of integrity, and with the humanity that you bring to the table, with assets and liabilities, be yourself and reach out and connect to people. Your opportunity is to do just that here, today, tonight, and tomorrow with each other. To be exactly who you are. I have to tell you, you are whole and you are complete. Exactly who you are, where you are in life, right now. This is life. This is life. Nobody is better than you. And you're not better than anyone else. The person that you bump into who's a colleague or working in the store or a friend, they have baggage, emotional baggage of the past and wounds. And that causes me to want to retract myself and put my armor on and put my mask on and show a really good face so you'll like me. And you read right through the inauthenticity of that, and you don't. I make a really good Dan Foxx. I make a really crummy imitation of who I think I should be. Be human. Come from love. Everything that you want in your life will come back tenfold when we get off ourselves and we focus on being there for others. That's where the joy in your life will come from. And because I know you've felt all the emotions that I've felt, you've been hurt, you've been joyous, you've been fulfilled, you've been fearful and paralyzed with your feet stuck in the stand, not knowing what decision to make next, not knowing what the right path is, being uncertain, lack of self-confidence, low self-esteem, incredibly high self-esteem, full of joy and power and passion. You've felt every single one of those things that I have felt. And because of that, you and I are just alike because of that. And it's because of that that I truly can say, I really love you. I really love you. And I would love to have a chance to somehow, some way, someday hear your stories as to why you have felt the feelings you felt and how you got to where you are today. Please go out. If not you making a change in the world, then who? And if not now, then when? Will next week, next month, next year be a better time to become vulnerable and authentic and loving? No, do it today. You and I together can literally change the world, one person at a time. Please join me to do that. Thank you so much for letting me be with you today.